Hi
Hello
guys! So our video is today about traveling during the Corona times. We both have been actually traveling and we are now sharing our experience. How was it? Is there anything open? What has changed? And do we think it's safe?
Let's get these masks off.
Yeah. If you'd like to support our channel, please subscribe, smash the like button, and if you have any questions, you can find us from askapilot.net. But let's get into it.
Arriving at the airport, the first thing I discovered was there's not a lot of people around. I mean,
No,
if you're
it's
used to
empty,
traveling,
yeah.
it's actually a little bit of a shock seeing that it's so empty. And I felt like
London Heathrow at 8 o'clock, that should be the rush
it should
hour.
be packed.
It's empty.
And of course, as more and more destinations open up, there will be more and more people in the airports. But I think the first feeling I got was like, am I actually doing something which is weird? You know, when you don't see any people around, you're just thinking, am I running a risk here? But then very quickly, it became apparent that there's actually been quite a lot of work being done at the airports to keep social distance in there, and that everything is actually done in a very civilized way. So that disappeared very quickly, that feeling of, am I doing something which could be potentially exposing myself?
So giving you a little bit information for London Heathrow, when we departed there, we did in separate days. But when you get to the airport, you're actually not allowed to get to the airport building if you're a family member. So you need to say goodbye outside of the airport building. And they have also taken out most of the self-service check-in automates. So of course, because you are touching it quite a bit, so you might need to do the check-in online on your phone or at the check-in counter.
Yeah, and I actually thought checking in for my flight, it came up with like an error message. I could not get the mobile boarding card. And I was just thinking, you know, with all these cancellations going on and everything, has my flight been cancelled? So I was actually getting a little bit nervous that I could not check in online. And when I asked the question, why couldn't I get a boarding card? Have I done something wrong or something? I was explained that these days there could be some restrictions in there, that they actually, the check-in staff will have to do some kind of check, just assessing that, yeah, you're okay to travel. Another thing I saw, and initially I thought that's a bit odd, you see various attempts or ideas of how to prevent people sitting closer together. So you might see something that looks like an in-op tape, or what do you call it? The tapes, for instance. If there was like a sofa, then there would be like
half of it would be taped away, so
yeah,
you cannot sit there.
And it doesn't mean that the whole sofa is broken. It's just another thing to just remind us that maybe, unless you're in the same family, sitting close like this is not appropriate. So once again, just based on that, it might actually be difficult to find somewhere you can sit, because half of the seats already gone.
It took me a while to find a seat on my before boarding. Yeah.
I noticed a sign saying that they were introducing these new cameras that measure temperature. So I get the idea that there's actually some new clever technology being brought in there, where without you noticing it, without getting a thermometer or anything else, then your temperature is being checked. Again, different airports, different technology, but I think there's a lot of things going on at the moment to protect everyone traveling.
At the airport in London Heathrow at the time, there was only booths open, so that's the only place you could get any food or drinks or anything at all.
Yeah. So would you say that worrying about whether you can get something to eat or drink is unnecessary?
Yeah.
Yes,
you can get something.
So depending on the airline, you might be used to some priority boarding or business class passengers, certain type of card member passengers getting on board the airplane.
Yeah.
Now they have actually, at a lot of airlines, introduced a new boarding procedure depending on where you are actually sat in the airplane, which I actually think, just forget Corona for a second, it's actually it speeds up the boarding process.
Well, actually, I know that some airlines actually do this already before Corona times, but I can tell you it never worked. But during the Corona times, actually, we have more time for boarding. So actually the gate agents have more time to gather the people in that group that is first going to the plane.
Yeah, so I think maybe for you guys going out traveling, just being aware that there's maybe a bit more strict boarding procedure.
Yeah.
So when you hear about boarding groups, just pay attention.
On your flight, you were flying with Lufthansa, did you have the middle seat empty?
No, I did not observe that procedure being enforced in all the flights that I have done recently have been nearly packed.
On a Finnair flight, the middle seat has been empty, but otherwise it has been also quite full. Well, if you think it as a passenger and you know that the airline is leaving the middle seat empty, would that give you the more confidence actually to travel?
It's a good question. For me personally, I don't think it makes any difference. I would consider traveling with all these extra measures safe anyway.
And for me, I think it makes me feel more safe because, well, I'm Finnish. I do not like people in general, so for me, I think I feel more secure because then the social distancing is actually respected.
The next thing I actually noticed was silence. Because can you imagine everybody walking with masks and everything and maybe being a little bit scared about, oh, I'm now going to go on board the airplane. Yeah, and I also think that that guy or woman that you have just sat down and then they need to go up and get something in the bag.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, there was a lot less of that because I think we have all become a little bit more aware of actually that's probably not the right thing to do. A little tip before you get on board, you will probably find quite awkward if you sit at the window seat and with all these measures being taken, that you are the one that has to go up and get your headphones in. So just think a little bit more about what you need on board and make sure you have that available, so you don't need to go up and get whatever you have in the hat racks.
So during the flight, on my flights, both flights, they give you a little snack cookie and then bottled water. The airline, of course, said that it's okay to remove the mask while you're eating and drinking, because if you cannot do that, then we are of course facing medical issues, that you might be dehydrated or your blood sugar is really low, and I understand that the airlines also wants to avoid that to happening. Yeah,
so you can expect to be given some kind of food, drink on board the flight, depending on what kind of ticket you have got. There's probably a difference between airline, what you will get and everything.
And other thing, this is what I noticed, is actually that the crew now has the front toilet, and as a passenger you can only use the back toilets on a smaller plane. Was it the same in your plane?
You know what, I'm one of these people that just get on board the plane and then I don't get up until I land, so I rarely have the need to go to the toilet. What I will say, what I did observe in terms of toilet use is that I didn't see people queuing much for the toilets. Did you?
No, I didn't. But I think this also the passenger announcement that the flight attendants made, that they actually recommend you not to use the toilet as much like maybe previously.
But I would just say, if you can think about it, maybe just try and avoid going to the toilet on your flight. I think you're helping everybody, because especially if you're on the window seat, there's no way you can just do an athletic jump over your two fellow passengers and everything. No. And everybody's just feeling a little bit more tense these days, so probably everybody would appreciate to minimize the movement around in the cabin. And I would say, if you already know that for whatever reason that you tend to use the toilet, maybe just have a think about then booking the aisle seat and not get a window seat. So that's a little tip.
And I would also say that, the normal service is basically gone. And airlines is trying to keep their staff safe. So that's why you don't actually see the cabin crew doing the normal service. They still do check the cabin every half an hour, as that's the regulations.
That trolley with all the stuff where you buy stuff, duty free and everything. I didn't see that. That probably doesn't. There was no duty free sales. There was no opportunity to buy a sandwich, opportunity to buy the usual stuff you might be getting on board.
Coffee, no.
Yeah, so again, if you really need your coffee and it's a morning flight, maybe get it yourself before you board the plane.
How about the deboarding? How was your experience?
This is probably the breakdown of all the social distancing rules, because I don't know what it is, but there is something built in a lot of passengers. It's like when that ding, fasten seatbelt,
goes off. Yeah.
Ding! Oh, that's my... Maybe
Yes, people are like this.
maybe it's built in us. That we still like, when we hear the ding, we jump.
Yeah, it was the same on both of the flights. I think it was a little bit better flying to Helsinki because it was filled with more of Nordic people and we tend to have more distance anyway. But how it was done on my flight was that they're basically deboarding in rows. So from 1 to 10 we'll deboard first and then the rest and then the rest.
Ding effect.
Yes.
So just be aware of the ding effect. So for me, the next thing then, when I left the airplane, again, I'm coming out in the terminal where there's not a lot of people again. I was worried that there would be a huge queue at passport control. There wasn't actually.
No, yeah. It was like only a few people, so they are really having a lot of staff, so there won't be that many people in queuing, and I think that's a great solution at the moment.
Yeah, it's obviously somebody at the airports having thought about this, that you know, they put extra staff on there, or staff that are able to, you know, handle all those passengers. And I expect as more and more travel picks up, then there will be more and more people also working, so to ensure that there's no long waiting time.
For me, the border crossing, even though I'm Finnish citizen and I was returning to Finland, I was questioned a lot at the border. How about you?
Well, I had a different experience. I mean, I was carrying almost this thick folder with all kinds of documentation to support why I was traveling and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of easy when I traveled from the UK to Denmark, because I have a Danish passport. So there was actually not that many.
Yeah, that's what I think. That I was a Finnish citizen going back to Finland, and I was questioned so bad. But when I traveled from Finland to UK, I wasn't questioned even once.
Yeah, I think what to take out of that is that you might be talking to some people that have said, oh, we got questioned and everything.
Yeah.
And maybe what they are doing is they're doing spot checks.
No, I think it depends on the country's restrictions and the situation in the country in general. But I think you should be still prepared to answer every question that there might come, because they actually have the right to question you why you actually come into the country.
Yeah. And I think, again, it depends on the airport. I have seen some airports when you arrive that there's these cameras again that measure your temperature. Again, you didn't see them.
I didn't see it, but you told me that there is one.
Yeah. So I think that's what's to take out of it, that there might be like technology installed and you don't even notice it. I mean, I noticed it, you didn't. So and thing I'd like to take out of it is that I didn't feel any discomfort going through. I didn't feel like I was like a criminal or anything like that. It was very smooth. Going to the baggage belt, that was the next concern I had. How is this going to be handled? It was actually, once again, very civilized. There was like clear marks of where I was supposed to stand. And in a way, I hope that this is something that actually teaches us something, because it was actually quite efficient. There was none of this like
pushing and I'm getting my bag and you're getting your bag, and we're all just scramming to the belt. Yeah.
But I think that maybe just be mentally prepared that you might, as I said, you might be caught by, what should we call this effect? Not the Bing effect, but there's my bag effect. Like, and you see your bag and there's the one, you know. Yeah. And then you forget everything just because you're so hyped on just getting your bag. Yeah. So maybe also a little tip: just be thinking about preventing yourself from just doing what you may normally do, just run for your bag, and just be standing where you are, and just wait until you can actually just lean forward and take your bag. Well,
all things in considered, do you think it was actually now faster to go through the airport?
Well,
what do you think?
Well, I can answer the question, but I don't think it's fair question. But
Why?
I'd explain. It was super fast.
Yes.
But it was like I had never experienced like so few flights out of Heathrow. So I think the question is when there will be a higher volume of flights, all these measures that are being brought in might actually make it take longer time.
Yeah.
So
at the moment, I would say it's actually faster to go through the airport.
Without question, it is a lot faster. But I wouldn't like to send the message out there to say,
go last minute.
no, especially not, because it must be so frustrating, you know, missing a holiday or missing a flight just because of waiting times.
No, in actually in London Heathrow, they on the website they had that you can arrive 2 hours before, and I think that was plenty of time.
Yeah,
then.
I think be sort of mindful of checking what the guidelines are. They might change over the next couple of weeks or when you're traveling and everything. And I think if you're one of those people that like to be there like ultra early and you think like, oh, I want to be there 5 hours before, just think about that you might actually not be helping everybody, because they are then adding to the concentration of people that are in the airport. So everybody could help each other by not trying to arrive too early at the airport so too many people are there. So maybe the advice is just try and be quite strict to what the guidelines are from the airport and from the operator, and don't try and be either super late or super early. So now you've got your baggage and you go out there. So I think the next thing I noticed was that there wasn't the typical welcome parade. Again, the recommendation at the time I traveled was for people not to go in the airport to greet family members. There might also be some local restrictions or recommendations on how you travel. And I think some places they might not recommend public transport, and they...
Yeah, so just follow the recommendations basically.
Yeah.
And you should be fine.
Yeah, but I'd say just don't expect the usual welcome to Hawaii welcome, and I think that pretty much sums it up. But I think, how did you feel overall? So, is it safe to travel? Was it uncomfortable to travel? What do you think?
I don't think it was uncomfortable, and definitely I would travel again, if I can say that. That I feel comfortable enough on the measures that has been taken at the airport and in a plane to basically quarantine my health and my safety in the best possible way.
I think I would say definitely yes. Is it safe to travel? I think it is. Was it comfortable? I actually think that I decided to invest in a different type of mask after getting these, because I felt a little bit uncomfortable having the mask on while flying. I think
it's a small price to pay that you can actually move around. Yeah.
But I think you will find that maybe traveling and wearing the mask is just a little bit of a discomfort. But I think it's something that, as you say, in the interest of looking after everyone, I think it's certainly a little small price to pay. So all in all, I'd say for all of you that have a reason to travel or decided to travel, I hope you could use those tips and advice.
And once again, if you have any questions you can find us from askapilot.net. And if you would like to see more aviation related topics and talks, please subscribe, hit the like button, and let us know what you'd like to see next.
Okay, stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
Bye.